Days of Our Lives, Stephen Nichols pays tribute to Drake Hogestyn on the one-year anniversary of his passing. An Enduring Harmony, Stephen Nichols pays tribute to his friend and Day's brother, Drake Hogestyn, 1 year later. The hallways of the Days of Our Lives studio, often a cacophony of hurried footsteps, echoing dialogue, and the clatter of set pieces, are quiet today. It's a silence that feels both heavy and sacred. For Stephen Nichols, who for decades has breathed life into the beloved, brooding Patch Johnson, this particular silence is filled with a ghost, a friendly, charismatic ghost with an easy smile and a glint of mischief in his eyes. It has been 1 year since the world learned of the passing of Drake Hogestyn, the iconic actor who for over 4 decades was the heroic heart of Salem as John Black. The news sent seismic waves through the tight-knit community of the show and its legion of fans. Today, however, is not for public mourning or grand statements. It is for a quieter, more personal remembrance. In an exclusive and deeply moving conversation, Stephen Nichols opens up about his friend, his colleague, and the irreplaceable harmony they found both on and off screen. "It's the laughter I miss most," Nichols begins, his voice, familiar and resonant, softening at the edges. Not just any laughter, but that specific, deep-bellied chuckle Drake had. You could be having the worst day, the weight of the world on your shoulders, and you'd hear that laugh from across the commissary, and it would just reset everything. He carried a light with him. The relationship between Patch and John on screen was a cornerstone of Days of Our Lives for generations of viewers. It was a dynamic built on a foundation of fierce loyalty, tempered by a history of conflict, misunderstanding, and redemption. They were brothers in arms, sometimes at odds, but always, ultimately, in each other's corner. What fans may not have fully grasped was the extent to which this fictional bond was a reflection of a very real and profound friendship. People saw the tension, the drama between our characters, and that was real. We loved playing that, Nichols explains, a faint smile touching his lips. But what existed between takes, between the action and cut, was a kind of effortless synchronicity. We had a shorthand, a look, a raised eyebrow was all we needed to know what the other was thinking. We trusted each other implicitly in those scenes. That trust doesn't come from just showing up to work. It comes from a deep, abiding respect for the man standing across from you. Nichols recounts a memory from their early years working together, a story that has become legend among the cast and crew, but has rarely been shared publicly. It was during a particularly intense stretch of filming, with 16-hour days becoming the norm. We were all running on fumes, lines were starting to blur, and the pressure was immense, he recalls. Drake and I had a big, emotional confrontation scene in the town square. The dialogue was heavy, full of accusation and pain. We did the first take, and it was fine, technically correct, but it had no soul. The director was about to call for another take when Drake just looked at me, and I looked at him, and without a word, we both knew. We did the entire scene again, but this time we swapped lines. Not all of them, but key phrases, reacting to each other's impulses instead of our memorized cues. The director was stunned. The crew was silent. It was electric. That was the take they used. That was Drake. He wasn't just saying lines. He was living in the moment, and he made you live in it with him. This creative symbiosis extended beyond the soundstage. Nichols fondly remembers their shared love for classic cars and motorcycles, a passion that often saw them spending weekends tinkering in Nichols' garage. He'd show up with a 6-pack of root beer. He wasn't a big drinker, and we'd just lose hours talking about everything and nothing. The shop was our sanctuary. We'd talk about our families, our fears, our hopes for the future of the show. He was the most grounded person I've ever known. In an industry that is constantly trying to inflate your ego or crush your spirit, Drake remained steadfastly, unshakably himself. He knew who he was, and he was at peace with it. That, in itself, was a gift he gave to everyone around him. The public image of Drake Hogestyn was that of the quintessential soap opera hero, chiseled, brave, and perpetually saving the day. but Nichols is quick to highlight the man behind the heroics. The fans saw John Black, the savior of Salem. I saw Drake, the guy who would secretly organize a birthday collection for a grip whose wife was sick. I saw the man who remembered the names of every crew member's children and would ask about their soccer games. He had an immense capacity for empathy. If he sensed you were struggling, he wouldn't make a big show of it. He'd just materialize beside you, put a hand on your shoulder, and tell a ridiculously bad joke until you cracked a smile. His strength wasn't just in his presence. It was in his profound kindness. The final year of Hogestyn's life was, as Nichols describes it, a masterclass in grace and courage. The illness was a private battle, one he faced with the same quiet dignity that characterized his life. He never wanted to be a burden, never wanted the spotlight on his struggle. Nichols says, his voice growing thick with emotion. He'd come to set on days he had no business being there, pale and tired, but he'd still have that smile. He'd still do his job with every ounce of his being. The last scene we ever shot together, it wasn't anything monumental in the script. Just John and Patch sharing a coffee at the Brady pub, talking about the latest crisis. But I think we both knew. There was an unspoken depth to it. When they called cut, he held my gaze for a second longer than usual, gave that little nod of his, and I knew it was a goodbye. The one-year anniversary has prompted a flood of memories for Nichols and the rest of the Day's family. The set has felt his absence acutely. John Black's presence in Salem was written out with a heroic, off-screen departure, a tribute the writers crafted with immense care. But for the actors who shared the stage with him for so long, the void is a physical space. Walking onto the set of the Brady pub is the hardest, Nichols admits. I still catch myself looking over to the corner booth, expecting to see him there, script in hand, maybe sketching something on a napkin. There's a stillness there now that never used to be. We all feel it. Deidre Hall, who plays Marlena, especially. Their chemistry was one for the ages. We lean on each other. We share stories. We keep him alive in that way. When asked what he hopes fans will remember most about Drake Hogestyn, Nichols doesn't hesitate. I hope they remember the joy. I hope they remember the man who, for over 40 years, invited them into their homes and gave them a hero they could believe in. Not a perfect hero, but a good man. A man who fought for what was right, who loved deeply, and who always found his way back to the light. That wasn't just acting. That was Drake. He was the living embodiment of the best parts of John Black. As our conversation draws to a close, Nichols shares one final, poignant thought. They say that in music, the most beautiful and powerful sound isn't always the note that is played, but the silence that follows, the resonance that hangs in the air. That's what Drake left us with. A profound resonance. A harmony that, even a year later, hasn't faded. We're all just learning how to play our parts in the new, quieter song without him. He pauses, looking out the window towards the familiar studio lot that was their shared home for so many years. The patch on my jacket, the leather, the motorcycle. It's all part of a story. But my friendship with Drake Hogestyn, that was one of the greatest parts of my life story. And that is a role I will cherish forever. In the quiet hallways of a television institution, the echo of a deep-bellied chuckle may have faded, but the harmony of a decades-long friendship, a brotherhood forged in the fires of fiction and solidified in the reality of mutual respect and love, endures. It is a testament to both men that the legacy they built together, both as Patch and John, and as Stephen and Drake, continues to resonate, a timeless melody in the heart of Salem.